Not clickbait. This is the Anycubic Kobra S1 Max, but instead of a review, this one has a story so far. As a surprise to nobody who is a regular, I'm having an issue with my brand new Kobra S1 Max combo. In fact, my issue is why this is part 1 of my S1 Max review. First of all, I was one of the first few to order on November 25th at 10 a.m. Eastern, and it didn't get delivered until April 21st. My disdain is because of on the Facebook group, I saw people that ordered in December were getting it delivered while mine sat in processing. Apparently, you can remind Anycubic with a button, and it actually did ship shortly after. I shouldn't have to do that. Once unboxed, I did half an example print before I had a catastrophic error that I'm still in talks with support about. I initiated that support ticket on May 3rd, and pretty disappointed I'm past the return window. But we're going to talk about what is going on because I believe I traced down the issue and support has taken 2 weeks to send me the wrong part. I want to love this thing because for its 350mm cubed print volume, it's one of the physically more compact printers for its print volume. Which is great because I'm sticking all my printers on a 5-foot steel shelf, and let's just say everybody's getting pretty cozy on that thing. First, let's get unboxing and we'll go over what is actually included. We'll talk about the waste volume for the on-disc example print, some features, and my entire experience so far with support. As of writing, I'm just shy of 2,000 subscribers, so I'm such a small channel, Anycubic doesn't even know I exist. For that reason, I feel I can share the first half of my story, and this peasant won't be getting any special treatment. I also have some very serious concerns about keeping the S1 Max that we're going to talk about at the end. They're back. First of all, learn from my mistakes. The box has a tearaway perforation on the bottom so you can lift the top off. Well, I didn't see that. And thanks to my low ceiling anyway, we're cutting this open. Even if I could return this, I destroyed the original box. It was well packed though. Good quality foam, cardboard inserts, and a lot of tape to keep the moving bits from moving during shipping. If you've unboxed one Core XY combo, then you've unboxed them all. It's surrounded by packaging to stand up to the most disgruntled FedEx employee, and you'll find your filament management system, or in our case the Ace Pro 2, inside. Sometimes, like the Creality K2 Plus, you'll get some rolls of filament in here too, but not today. You'll find a box of maintenance items like tools and cords inside too. Zip ties holding all the internal bits in place, and screws keeping the bed from bouncing around. Once your Ace Pro is out, you'll find the manual inside. Halfway through the unboxing process, that was a choice. The manual states you should be installing the charcoal filter in the fans housing, then move to the back of the printer. On the back, you'll have the external spool holder, the filament hub where the 4 PTFE tubes from each filament roll in the Ace can join into the single tube that goes to the extruder. The PTFE tubes are just long enough to put the Ace on top or on the side with the filament hub, but you can't go further than that without ordering and cutting your own from Amazon. From here, you just need to load it up, set it up, calibrate it before moving on to your first print. If you're running a print farm or need prototype prints, then you need a solid plan B, and that would be PCBWay. You upload your STL, the higher quantity you pick, the lower your unit prices, select color, material, infill, and more, and production begins just a few days after review. If you need CNC machining, custom PCBs, PCB assembly, or quite literally dozens of other products, then use my link in the description below for $5 off your first order. The onboard 4-color example print is some fidget toy in 4 different colors. It looks like it's designed to switch colors every layer, which is a bold choice compared to Creality K2 Plus's 4-color benchy that printed in a block of layers in solid colors. As you can see, it's about half printed, and I ran into an issue I think any printer would, although probably uncommon. I was using leftover filament because I didn't think there would be much waste, but as I was getting ready to swap yellow, the yellow already in the ace didn't come back. It turns out that when you are at the end of your roll and it's time for a color swap, if the filament can't reach the motors in the ace, it just kind of sits in limbo until you can come fix it. Kind of obvious with no good solution in retrospect. Continued forward into my support issue you need to hear. The poops seem to be about bamboo P1 size, much less than the long nozzle of the K2+. With my multi-nozzle printers, I forgot how much waste this actually is. Print quality's fine, nothing good or bad to say about it. Let's move on. I'll probably try again part 2, or not, I don't know. I started my speedboat test and had some really irregular movement and clumping. This was causing some spaghetti too, so I stopped it and went to try again. Upon retrying, I got a leveling sensor error, but this was odd because the sensor was so much higher than the clump, it wasn't touched. Fine, after verifying I cleaned everything up, I went to try again, but this time I got a homing X or Y axis error and a nasty grinding sound I didn't get on camera. After flipping the power switch and trying to home manually, I found the print head only moves in diagonals, instead of to a specific corner to hit both axis limit switches. Doing it again, but watching the belts, I found one of my motors wasn't moving the belt, and not really knowing the logistics of moving a Core XY printer head, I found it interesting, and each stepper motor has to work together to move in straight lines. This is where my problems got way worse. As you can see by my disassembled printer, just to preface the support section, my support contact has been patient, and having done 8 years of tech support myself, starting with a script, but he started to work with me a little more. I think some of this is lost in translation, but it did contribute to some frustration. It is what it is, so let's focus on how I got here. Started by reseating the connections. There was a 12-hour time difference between me and China, so progress happened one night at a time. While reseating the connections, the red glue was flush, so it didn't move from the factory, and I did print for a few hours already for that fidget spinner. Looks like a loose connection was not the issue. I took a picture of the connections unplugged to prove I did it, but there was a little confusion where one update was essentially, please plug them in. Oops, I clarified that I did. Maybe an issue when they probably get a lot of little Timmy's first printer, so I get it. While waiting for a reply, I filled another message stating I swapped the stepper motor cables on the PCB, and the problem flipped as well. This told me that the stepper motors and cables are fine, and when the power is completely removed, I can manually move each motor freely. When I plug it in, one motor moves freely, and the non-moving motor has a significant amount of resistance. I provided this feedback suggesting it was the motherboard, but instead got a request to send me some stepper motors. Wanting to do this by the books, and with backup printers I could use, I did this by the books, and looks like the next step was 2 new stepper motors and a Z-axis cable? Fine, if it fixes it, great. If it doesn't fix it, I have 2 new stepper motors. Win-win? Well, yes, I win regardless, but not after a little suffering. After agreeing to replace the motors, and after they shipped on May 8th, they arrived on May 20th, 12 days later. I then looked at the wiki on how to replace them. I regret it. Complete disassembly to remove an XY gantry subframe. Glass, walls, apparently it's all on that subframe that needs to be lifted out. I'm not sure if this was all required, but again, I want to do this by the books to evaluate support, so your mileage may vary. I thought I broke a few PCBs too because of that glue. They put a dab of glue in the connector, which would prevent it from coming loose, yes, but repairability and maintenance sucks. This happened a few times, but I took a pic of it on the extruder, the plastic part of the connection, it all came off the PCB instead of just the half with the wires. Luckily, I was able to slide it back on when reinstalling, but since I still can't home, I haven't tested these nozzle wires, so that'll be in part 2. This isn't a how-to video, but I'll let it roll into a montage of replacing these motors. Spoiler, it didn't fix my issue, and after reiterating, I think it's the motherboard, it's now currently on its way. In the meantime, the downside to doing this, knowing it won't work, is that there are so many different screws, and I have to get them all in the right spot. It's not too bad if all the screws go back in their home, and you're organized. But when you can't do that, like removing that subframe with its dozens of screws, you have to be organized. And it still sucks, because tradition is you end up with 1 or 2 extra. Also, all my foam that touches the glass is now screwed up, because they put screws under the foam on a brand new printer. Great. At least the Anycubic Kobra 3 and Kobra 3 Max I offloaded worked right out of the box and was able to start printing right away. As of writing, I've been staring at this thing for a month, and well, I get to stare at it some more. The other, even bigger concern, to be honest, will be the availability of parts. Like I said, I had the Kobra 3 and Kobra 3 Max, and that 3 Max was obviously a lower volume product. Sourcing parts for that thing 1 year after ownership was a nightmare. In fact, I wanted a new print head for it because of issues I didn't feel like troubleshooting anymore, and I could not find one. Amazon, eBay, and the Anycubic site didn't have any stock only 1 year after the first wave of shipments. That wasn't even my first parts issue. One of my videos is how to replace and crimp a printer belt, and that was because I couldn't buy an OEM belt from Anycubic. This isn't a new issue either. Another video again is replacing extruder caber on my Creality K2 Plus, and I couldn't get parts from Creality at the time of filming, so I went to eBay and Amazon, but did actually find a replacement part. I'm not good enough to fix and fabricate that part myself, but it worked. I'm giving myself more time, going to get it fixed with support's help. Maybe knock out a maintenance video in the future, but it's not looking good for long-term ownership. And definitely not going to buy 5 or more to start a small print farm. My Bamboo H2 and Snapmaker U1 are my initial choices, even over my K2 Plus and A1 Mini. Eventually, when this is resolved, I'll finish with my usual tests, release part 2, but I couldn't even guess when that would be. How did you fare when you unboxed yours? I genuinely hope it went well, because while this is ultimately good stuff for a video, I'd be so disappointed if I just wanted to start printing the moment I unboxed it, which I guess I did kind of want to do.